Who the hell does Amber Rudd think she is? Okay, so it's her turn to be Home Secretary this week, but, be honest, we're not talking political colossus here. She seems to owe her elevated position to a willingness to stick her head above the parapet when Mother Teresa is doing her celebrated hiding behind the sofa trick. From what I can gather, Rudd's main job is to slag off Boris Johnson at every available opportunity. She was at it again over the weekend after Boris finally vented his frustration with the dog's breakfast the government is making of Brexit. Look back in Amber was brimming with indignation over his long overdue intervention, accusing him of behaving like a backseat driver. She's obviously got a thing about Boris and cars, having previously accused him of not being the kind of chap a lady would want to drive her home. Admittedly, Bozza has a bit of a reputation for not being safe in taxis, but I can't help suspecting that some of Rudd's resentment of her cabinet colleague is founded upon the fact that he's never made a libidinous lunge in her direction. It can't do much for any girl's self-esteem to discover that she's about the only female with a pulse in the Conservative Party who hasn't been subject to the swashbuckling swordsman's attentions. After all, when it comes to inviting Crumpet to accompany him on a state visit to the Republic of Legovia, Boris manages to make even the late Alan Clark MP look fussy. In political terms, Rudd is a dowdy downstairs scullery maid by comparison with Johnson's rakish lord of the manor, ravishing the maidens of the village and leaving them gasping for more. Certainly, in the essential task of enthusing the masses, Boris has an unrivaled ability to find the Tory party's erogenous zones. An Amber Rudd speech, in contrast, is like a night out with an I-speak-your-weight machine. During the EU referendum campaign she was one of the leading lights wheeled out by Project Fear. No one took the slightest notice of her dire predictions of impending doom. When Theresa May declined to take part in televised election debates, Rudd was dispatched in her stead. We all know how that turned out. She only managed to hold on to her own seat by the lacquer on her nails, scraping home by 346 votes in a Hastings constituency which should be fertile Conservative territory. So you might have thought Rudd would be both relieved and grateful that she not only survived May's self-inflicted general election car crash, but also clung on to her job as Home Secretary, a great office of state well beyond her limited abilities. Where on earth does she get the impertinence to believe that she has a divine right to put Boris back in his box? I don't want him managing the Brexit process, she declares. What's that supposed to mean? And what has it got to do with her? If anyone has earned the chance to manage the Brexit process, it's Boris, who risked all to lead the Leave campaign. I'd also argue that he should have been allowed to offer himself to the party's membership as a successor to Call Me Dave. So what if he's ambitious, a bizarre slur regularly aimed at him? Of course he's ambitious. He's a politician. Are you seriously telling me that Amber Rudd isn't ambitious? Or Theresa May, for that matter? Having spearheaded the winning Leave campaign, Boris is entitled to lay out his vision for a successful Brexit negotiations, especially the terminally arrogant Philip Hammond, a pompous, intergalactic bore. David Davis is doing his best, but the Prime Minister has been dragging her feet. We're told she's going to make a Brexit speech on Friday, but it's action that's needed, not more words. There's no point in petty squabbling about whether we're getting back £350 million a week from the EU, or simply hanging on to money which is rightfully ours. This is an angel's dancing on pinheads diversion. We must concentrate on the bigger picture. From a column written almost exactly a year ago, there is much that bears repeating. In case you have forgotten, the question on the ballot paper said this: should the United Kingdom remain a member of the European Union or leave the European Union? Not much ambiguity there. It didn't contain any caveats, such as, should we leave, but only if we can negotiate a deal like Norway, which involves paying money to the EU and accepting most of its laws. Here's the deal, we're off. No ifs, no buts. If EU politicians and industrialists want to do a post-Brexit deal with us, they know where we are. We don't have to grovel. We've got a winning hand. Where is it written that we can only leave if we agree to the EU's terms? Nowhere. The Europeans have got more to lose than we have. Precisely, Boris said pretty much the same thing in his 4,000-word article published at the weekend. Unlike Amber Rudd and Theresa May, come to that, he has proved that he's a winner and can command a thumping personal mandate, first as the London mayor who saved us from Red Ken, and then as the knight in shining armor who defied the defeatists and convinced 17.4 million people that we have a glowing future as a proud, independent nation. Ludicrously, some pundits and politicians are now demanding that May sacks Boris for disloyalty, in other words, for speaking up for the wishes of the majority of the British people as expressed at the ballot box in unprecedented numbers. If Mother Teresa feels the urge to sack anyone, she should start with the dismal, anti-democratic Amber Rudd.